Hi, I'm Lucy Stevens, owner of the Reaver Clinic. So we're back today with our second Whiteboard Wednesday. Now today we're going to discuss another question from our Facebook group. Can I over-snack on nuts? So today I'd like to share 3 things with you. Firstly, I'm going to tell you why the answer to that question is yes, we can over-snack on nuts. Secondly, I want to tell you one problem we have with nuts. And finally, I'll explain how we can limit that problem. So first things first, to answer this question, we need to look at what nutrients we get when we eat nuts. And one of the main things that we know about nuts is that they have a high fat content, and in particular, omega fats. Now, what are omega fats? Well, omega-3 and omega-6 fats are essential fats. They cannot be made by the body, so we have to eat them. We need them for all of our body cells. Our brains are made out of a type of omega-3 fat. Our eye health depends on them. When the body gets an infection or an inflammation, omega fats are part of the process our body uses to get our immune system to activate, to protect us, and even more importantly, to tell it to stop when the job is done. Okay, so what proportion of these fats do we need? Now, you may have heard me mention this before, but our genes have not changed from that of our early ancestors who were around in the Paleolithic period. We evolved eating a particular diet, and research shows us that we evolved on a ratio of about 1:1, equal omega-6 to omega-3 fats. Now today, our nutrition and the way we live is very different from what our bodies were designed to work on. And one example of this is our omega-fat ratio. A typical Westerner today has more like a 15:1 or 20:1 omega-6 to omega-3 fat ratio. So why is this? Well, firstly, we eat a lot less omega-3. A major source of omega-3 is fish, of which we eat much less of than we would have during evolution, in particular less shellfish. Secondly, wild meat, plants and nuts would have contained some omega-3, but agricultural processes have massively reduced this. Animals, for example, are fed grains instead of their natural diets, and grains are high in omega-6 fats. So therefore, the animal fat we eat is then higher in omega-6 fat too. And finally, we also eat much more omega-6 in our diets today due to foods containing so much vegetable oils. Now, I don't include olive oil in this, but sunflower oil, linseed, soybean oil, etc. They're all very high in omega-6 fats. So, what are the health consequences? Well, we need both omegas in our diet, but it's this imbalance or higher omega-6 fat ratio that gives us an inflammatory state. So we get more chronic health problems, high blood pressure, circulatory issues, arthritis, etc., things like that. So, back to the question, can I over-snack on nuts? And the answer is yes, because nuts are very high in omega-6 fats. Evolutionary-wise, we would have definitely eaten nuts as part of a healthy diet. But today, we get so many omega-6 fats in our diet from other sources, we don't really want to overload ourselves. So I'm not saying eat no nuts. They're a great food to eat, but not more than a handful a day. Or go a few days without and then have some more the next day. Walnuts are a little bit of an exception because out of all of the nuts, they've got a much more balanced ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats. Here's a little FYI for you. Peanuts are not nuts. They're from the bean family. So when I talk about the health benefit of nuts, I'm definitely not including peanuts in that group. Okay, so now the second thing that I was going to tell you about is a problem we know about nuts. And this is actually a much bigger problem than people know. And it's to do with something called mycotoxins. These are toxic substances produced from a type of fungus that's found on nuts, grains and dried fruit. It's actually estimated that up to 25% of the world's food crops are affected by mycotoxins. And they can be very dangerous. Some are shown to be cancer-causing, whilst others can affect the kidney, the liver, the immune system. Penicillin, in fact, is actually a mycotoxin, but we've got hundreds of kind of other types. Warm, moist conditions increase mycotoxins, whereas heating can remove some of the toxicity. So, what can we do to improve this problem? Here are a few of my top tips to reduce some of our mycotoxin exposure. Number 1, never eat raw nuts. They have a very high mycotoxin content. Number 2, roast all nuts you buy in the oven and then store them in an airtight dry container. It's much better really if you only roast the nuts as you need them, so you avoid storing them. And number 3, where possible, and I know this is not always that easy if you're on the run, but if you can, shell your own nuts. There's a much higher mycotoxin content on the shell, and then it can't get into the nut. It's also probably a very good way to stop you overeating too many nuts, as it takes a lot longer to shell them and then you get bored. So that's it for now. Enjoy your nuts, don't eat too many, and roast them first. Until next time, post any thoughts or questions underneath this video, and I'll see you next Wednesday.